you're interested in, we're starting another one next week. So you could go on our website and book the next one if that's something you'd be interested in. So yeah, so it's the last week in there, and then everyone else going into the main shrine.
Great, come right in. There's some spaces here, plenty of room spaces at the front here. Good. Yeah, get anything you need. If you're a bit chilly, you could get a blanket. There are some blankets at the back. Someone could get me a blanket. A bit chilly. I'll let you know. Thanks. Okay, very warm welcome. My name's Kusalasara. This is Dharma Night, and we do this kind of run of talks quite often, where we just choose a favourite teaching from our teacher Sangharakshita and look at that and riff off it. So this evening I'm going to be talking about, he has some very interesting ideas on humans and their development and development of individuality and how that relates to a spiritual life and a spiritual community. We'll get a chance to explore that in quite a bit of depth. So that's what we're doing this evening. We're going to be doing some meditation to begin with, but first of all, what we'll do. And welcome to those of you who are watching. I know some of you. Nice to have you here as well in the shrine room. The first thing we're going to do is salute the three jewels. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Dhammaya.
Namo Dhammaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Nama.
Namo Nama.
Om.
Om.
Hom.
Hom.
Okay, so I think what would be nice is actually if we just spend a bit of time arriving. So I'm going to ask you to find your meditation posture. I'm just going to lead us in a body awareness. This is the foundations of mindfulness is becoming still and noticing sensations of your body. So we'll begin with that. This can really be a bridge from whatever activities you've been involved in today to arriving here in the Buddhist Centre, ready to hear about Buddhism. But just now, noticing your body. Just soften your eyes, let them close. Feeling the heaviness of your body as it pushes down onto your seat. Just feeling that contact of your sitting bones resting into the cushion. And have a sense of letting go through your sitting bones. So letting gravity hold you, relaxing down. Letting your shoulders move down your back. Letting your arms relax, hanging loosely from your shoulders. Hands soft, not gripping. Should let your awareness fill your whole posture. Feel into the shape of your body. And see if you can relax in your belly. Maybe your chest. And soften your face. And just keeping relaxing more and more. So again, relaxing more into your seat. Again, softening your shoulders. So relaxing in the belly. Aware of sensations in the center of your chest and around your heart. And you might just feed in the words open-hearted, or warm-hearted. Just bringing those qualities to your experience. And seeing if you can enjoy this quality of stillness as we sit here. Okay, good. So we're going to do some more meditation in a minute, but I want to introduce a quality that I think we'll find useful and interesting to think about and bring to our meditation. So we're going to be doing the mindfulness of breathing, and the quality is a Buddhist word, and it's called viveka. Viveka. Has anyone heard of this word? Maybe one or two of you have. Yeah. And viveka means, it's a beautiful word, it means seclusion or solitude or even single-hearted. It's used by the Buddha quite a lot. And when I think of seclusion and solitude in relation to meditation, it sort of brings up lovely images of someone sort of perhaps going to the forest and finding a nice grove and sitting in meditation, like the Buddha did and many of his disciples. And I think there's a sort of myth in that, isn't there, that's really appealing, like, when when I'm not so busy, maybe I'll just take to the forest and and just sit and be with myself. Even if we sort of don't think it through in as a realistic thing, that there's perhaps something that appeals to us in that image. So viveka, this lovely quality of seclusion, solitude, in very positive ways, or single-heartedness, and we can think about any meditation as being that. And when we're sitting here, we're going to do the mindfulness of breathing. You can just think of it in a way of sort of gathering ourselves from, sort of withdrawing ourselves from all of the things that we've been involved in over the week, over the day, and whether that's just merely in our thoughts or with other people, all of the projects we've been sort of getting involved in. We can just sort of, I've got this sort of image of like having lots of tentacles kind of all spread out. Just withdraw from that, and just come into your body, and leave it at that. Yeah. So this quality of like, it's just me. I'm just sitting here, and this is my experience. I don't need to worry about other people's experience or what they might think of me or whatever else is going on in the shrine room. That's none of my business. This is my experience, and I can just attend to that. Yeah. So that we can start to just think of that quality of viveka in that way. I've quite often quoted the artist Philip Guston, who talks about this thing of studio ghosts, and this reminds me a bit of this quality of viveka. So he talks. He's a painter. He was a painter in New York. If you don't know him or didn't know, he talked about his studio life as being sort of followed by studio ghosts. So he said you go to the studio, and the first thing you have to do is get rid of the critics' voices, and then you have to get rid of the voices of your painter peers, and then you have to get rid of the voices of your friends, and then you have to get rid of the voices of your family, and then you have to get rid of your voice, and then you can really paint. Yeah. So it's something like that. Like, let's just cast aside all of the goings on, and just be here as we're meditating, so to speak, under our tree, minding our own business, and just let your experience be exactly as it is, without comparing it to anybody else's, without wondering if it's the right experience or the wrong experience, and just trusting that the quality of all that's needed is to notice things, yeah, and that's, we're starting then to move towards this quality of viveka, of seclusion, of your single heart, which I can't decide whether that sounds good or not. Actually, no, I keep saying it, but anyway, so something like that. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah, should we give it a go? Okay, good. Actually, I'm just going to say a couple more things about it while I'm talking, just to fill it out. That apparently, when the Buddha talked about viveka, he talked about it in 3 ways, and one was literally seclusion. So, literally, he might talk to his disciples and say, "Go to the jungle and sit on your own and stay there for a week, and then come back and talk to me." So there's like literal seclusion, and we might do that by going on solitary retreat or just deciding to meditate on our own. It's also included in the word viveka is emotional seclusion. So just not being dependent on other people's emotional life, or just like emotionally independent. And then the final one is ethically independent. So knowing one's values and having a sense of one's values, being able to act on them without without the need for approval or affirmation from other people. So a kind of ethical integrity, that's also under the umbrella of viveka. So it's got it's got a literal and a sort of more psychological connotations as well. Yeah. Okay. Right, that really is it. We're going to meditate. So we'll sit for a bit longer. So if there was anything that wasn't comfortable just now, you can change it. Is that really, really dark? Is it all right? It's just dark for me.
Kusalasara.
Yeah.
When they're like that, if you turn them on, they get really bright straight away. So
I've turned it down
okay.
and then turned it off. Is that right? A slick operation here. So if you want to sort of bring an imaginative aspect to it, feel very free. You might just be a bit captured by that idea of you in the forest. It's not to do with pushing other people away. It's to do with gathering yourself. A sense of your steadiness in your posture. Almost regal. A sense of your whole body. Gathered here. Your attention also gathered here. And start to notice where you can feel your breath. Notice that the body moves with every inhalation and exhalation. The mindfulness of breathing. Just seeing if you can maintain stillness in your posture, which is a stillness of mind. the last minute, you can relax the effort to follow the breath, and we'll just sit completely still. This quality of viveka, wholeness, gatheredness, contentment. Very good. So we'll have a tea break now, and then we'll come back and explore in some depth about this, the qualities of an individual and why we need them in the Buddhist community. Okay, so you might not be sitting in exactly the same place as you were because we've got other people joining, but don't worry, there's plenty of places to sit. Just sit anywhere. Yeah, there's loads of space, so just find a seat rather than make a new one. The seats at the front are always free. It'd be great if we could sit nearer the front. I get a bit lonely up here. Okay, great. Yeah, okay, welcome to those of you just joining from the intro course. Lovely to have you with us. I'm going to talk about some qualities which actually I seem to remember you might have talked a little bit about this on the intro course last week. So you will have a head start actually. Anyway, so qualities of growth in the Buddhist life, basically, human growth, and how that's described by our teacher Sangharakshita in terms of more and more individuality. So that can be misread and misunderstood, so we'll spend a bit of time exploring that and hopefully get to the point where we explore what happens when individuals come together and create a community. We'll see how far we get. But to begin with, I thought I'd just tell you about some phases of my Buddhist life. Which actually began many, many years ago, and then we'll just draw some points out from that. Mainly, I think I haven't led a very interesting life, but there's one distinctive feature is that my father, before I was even born, he became interested in Buddhism, and so I was brought up by a Buddhist. That doesn't mean I was brought up as a Buddhist, but sort of occasionally a Buddhist idea or a Buddhist thought, or no, probably not thought, or a Buddhist something would sort of come my way. So I had a sort of rough idea, but I'd say probably incorrect idea of what Buddhism was. We had lots of Buddhist images in our house and things. As a young person, like in my teens, I suddenly found it very convenient to be a Buddhist without knowing anything about it. So it was just a way to be other than everybody else. It was a way to define myself against the mainstream. So that's what I was interested in doing as a teenager. I started listening to punk music. I had a rural upbringing, and this is really tragic. So there wasn't there wasn't much to do. So I lived in a really tiny village, and then there was a big village where the high school was. So Friday night it was youth club, right? So we go to youth club. And that was like in a school hall, so we'd play ping pong for a bit, and then we'd go outside and smoke. And then down the high street there was a caravan, and the Christians would be there. So they would like have a cigarette and maybe go and see the Christians. So that was like Friday night in rural Norfolk. And like when I was talking to the Christians, I was definitely a Buddhist. So just sort of antagonistically a Buddhist. I can't remember what we talked about. It probably wasn't actually very interesting, but it was definitely suddenly it was like the thing to be in my mind. So that was my first phase as a Buddhist. The second phase was when I was at university, just as I suppose life suddenly began to reveal itself as being more complex and happiness harder to reach than I'd anticipated as a young punk in Long Stratton. I wasn't really a punk, I just had some DMs. Yeah, so so the reality of the happiness of life, not just sort of falling into my lap in a really simple way, began to seep in, and so I began to explore Buddhism a bit for myself. My brother had also become a Buddhist, and he was really into it, and he's quite expressive of his opinion. So at home there was like Buddhism, that was like talked about a lot. And I finished university, and I didn't know what on earth. University doesn't prepare you for life, really, so it's the same position I was in before. Didn't know what on earth what to do with my life. So but I thought, I knew some Buddhists. I thought, well, maybe I'll go to the Buddhist centre. And I felt really at home there. Like I sort of recognised, I knew how to communicate with the people there. They seemed familiar. And it seemed like this very sort of easy milieu for me to fall into. So that was comfortable. And I was like, it's actually better than rebelling, is just like having nice friendships and turning up at classes and things like that. And then, so I was doing that for a few years, and really enjoying it, and really enjoying meeting different people at the Buddhist Centre. And then I was wondering whether to get more involved and have a mitra ceremony. So for those of you who don't know, we had some yesterday. This is a phase of that we offer. Well, it's a symbolic act that we offer here in this Buddhist centre and Buddhist centres in Triratna, where you declare that you're a Buddhist and that you're living a Buddhist life, and that's witnessed by the Buddhist community. So mitra means friend. So I was wondering whether to do that, and I was all lined up to have my mitra ceremony. And the night before my mitra ceremony, I got really upset. I was crying to my flatmate. I was like, I'm doing it for all the wrong reasons, and I just wasn't sure whether it's actually my decision to do this or not, because I had such a background of influence. Does that make sense? So like, am I how can I discover for myself if I'm doing this for me, or just because it feels comfortable, because it really does. Anyway, I had my mitra ceremony, enjoyed it, but I realised as I got more interested in Buddhism, I was sort of getting more dogged by this question of like, is it me deciding, or am I just doing what's been presented to me? Which isn't like most people who I know who've got involved in Buddhism have sort of come to Buddhism from something else, and it's like, this is it. For me, it was like, how do I know if it's it when it's just sort of the wallpaper of my life? So from there, I thought, well, I've really got to discover whether this is me and my experience, or whether I need to do something else with my life. So I moved to London from Norfolk, and moved into a women's Buddhist community, and from there became more and more committed. And simultaneously, as I was dogged by these doubts, I was also having experiences that had nothing to do with my family background, nothing to do with my father, my brother. So, the friendships that I made here in London, completely unmediated by them. That was definitely me becoming friends with other people, yeah. I think there were some things that I found quite hard in the Buddhist life as well. Like I sort of found meditation quite challenging. So there weren't any mystical signs coming through that I was hoping for to say, no, you really are a Buddhist. Like no one else could tell me. Actually, I couldn't get that from an imagined Buddha. I couldn't get that from my friends. It had to come from me. And this sort of question, it came in parallel. I sort of, as I got more and more confidence, this question became stronger and stronger. And actually, then I've carried on committing, and I'm an order member with a Buddhist name. And on my ordination retreat, which was a 3-month retreat in a women's retreat centre in Spain, this question sort of like erupted and sort of really like a volcano. I was like, is this really it? I seem to keep going, but is this really it? And I had to keep, like every moment on that retreat, I had to go, do I choose this? And I'd be like, yes, I choose this. Yes, I choose this. And I just had to keep reminding myself that I choose this. There's no pressure from anyone else. And I mean, luckily, I've chosen something. I think, what do I want to say? Now, I can just safely say that I completely know that I've chosen this. That there's no concern that I'm not living my own life. That's become, my own life has become clearer and clearer to me through this path. So luckily, I think I probably was at first influenced by like trying to be different, and then influenced, it's probably similar, crossing over, influenced by trying to fit in. But I've chosen a path in my life that encourages neither of those things, but encourages like an individual person's growth, and an individual person's self-discovery. And the people around me, they're not interested in defiance or rebelliousness, and they're not interested in kind of like pleasing, kind of just fitting in. What people around me, I discovered, were interested in, like, who am I and what do I want? So that trajectory offers like a few different ways of being in relation to other people and being in relation to groups of people. So we've got, first of all, this rebellious kind of person, and that our teacher talks about that person as being individualistic. Yeah, so in that case, you're relying on a group of people to define yourself against. Yeah, so it wasn't just like, oh, I want to be a Buddhist for its own sake. I definitely wanted to be a Buddhist or have the label of a Buddhist so that I could show that I was different to everybody else. Yeah, and that was my concern, sort of heaping everybody else together, and then me and then maybe a few other cool people could be over here. Yeah. So individualistic, yeah, so like non-conformist, definitely. I remember even like applying for a job like for kitchen porter or something when I was younger, and it said what do you dislike? I don't know, like one of these like fun questions or something. What annoys you? And I said, people being like sheep. So I was definitely keen to be seen as different. But it's a bit uncomfortable, isn't it, being different all the time? So when I discovered that maybe I could fit in, I went the other way. That's another way of being around people, is like just thinking, okay, what are the rules? How do I work out what they are and then do them so that I don't stand out and I can just like harmoniously blend with everybody? Yeah, so that's like a friendly, connected way of being, but it doesn't. It means that you're not actually being yourself, doesn't it? It means that you're learning what everyone else is and being them, and then you get a whole group of people trying to work out what the rules are, and no one's being themselves. So that's the conformist tendency. We'll all have these tendencies. Some situations will bring out the defiant side of us, and some situations will bring out the bit that just really wants to fit in and doesn't want any kind of trouble. Yeah. So how to my question for myself in a way was, when the answers all look the same, how do you find individuality? So if I become a Buddhist out of defiance, it looks the same from the outside as if I become a Buddhist through conformity. So how am I supposed to live? Or do I just not do that at all, and deliberately live another life just to show everybody that I've got my own mind. Yeah. Well, our teacher Sangharakshita, he says, well, what we're really trying to do in the Buddhist life, the spiritual life, is become true individuals. So we're going to discuss the qualities together of true individuals. And true individuals are they're not an average of both a defiant person and a conformist, an individualist and a conformist. They're not sort of like somewhere in the middle, or someone who can do both as appropriate. A true individual is not defined in any way by what other people are doing. Yeah, so they don't. Their self-creation, let's say, or self-identity doesn't need to put itself against or with other people. They're independently minded. We were talking in the first half about this quality of viveka, of seclusion and sort of gatheredness and wholeness. So independently minded, emotionally confident and independent, so not emotionally reliant on other people, and able to act with their own values in any given situation. Yeah, so that's some of the qualities of a true individual, or of an individual. And actually, Bhante, our teacher, talks about the Buddha as being a true individual, like completely free from group conditioning. So human beings are socially structured creatures. So this is going to be a big part of our psyches, and there's nothing wrong with it, like how to be part of society, how to interact with other human beings. But in order to grow, to become, well, to live one's own life, one needs to start to cultivate this sense of individuality. Like, what do I really think? Never mind what other people think. What are my values? Never mind what other people are doing. What is my experience? How do I live more and more from that? Yeah. So in a minute, let me just gather some thoughts. I don't want to say anything else about it. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to have some. We're going to get into little groups, and I suggest you get into groups of 3. Let's do that first, and then I'll give you the next instruction. And, get into groups. Okay, groups of 4. Groups of 4. Sorry.
I guess they could.
So we got say 4 now.
I don't know, you just talk about it.
Okay, so at least nearly all of you have got a little piece of paper, and on the piece of paper, our quality is a quality that our teacher suggests belongs to a true individual. So the qualities are: they're free from group conditioning, developed self-awareness, not psychologically dependent on others, creative, and accept unpopularity. Yeah? So you'll have one of those as your discussion point. So what I'd like you to do between you is like work out why is that a quality of a true individual to discuss.
Could you read them again, please?
You'll get one. Yeah. Is there anyone else who needs a? Maybe you two could go and.
We have 2 threes, so
Sangadara. There are 2 threes here. So if there are 2, they can. Great, thank you.
What does it make you feel like? What do you imagine it's like?
if I would be underwear, I think I would be like I would
creating
You have to talk to a bell again. It's just going in a direction. That being that we have to use. And you can't rebel in isolation, you know what I mean? You have to go
discussions have gone. So, I think those questions are demanding and might have required you to think a little bit. So let's hear how that went. So a couple of groups discussed that a true individual is free from group conditioning. Which would you want to wave? Who discussed that? Over there. Yeah. Okay. Great. What do you think? What does that mean? Free of group conditioning. Something you say. What did you come to in your groups?
There's not many groups that allow people to be individuals.
Aha.
Situations where there's like groups where there's certain expectations or so it's quite rare in a way to find like groups that don't have like certain conditions put on being a part of that group.
Did you talk about examples of that?
And PT was all about like going to football.
Yes, you know, time spent with old friends and how dynamics to shift that relationships that you have with those people when those relationships formed. I think lots of people will share the experience of kind of feeling as if you're regressing to the former version of yourself when you spend time with younger friends or even family.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that both of those I think they're really strong, aren't they? Friendship groups, really old friendship groups, and family in particular. You're sort of unconsciously expected to fit into the way that you've always been, and it's very, very challenging to do something different. Yeah. What else came out of that discussion, free from group conditioning?
We talked about you don't always know that what your conditioning is.
Yeah.
And that the sort of key to it might be lots of sort of self-reflection, being accountable for learning, and in sort of an ongoing exploration.
Yeah.
And also not all groups are terrible.
No.
So sometimes it's good to be influenced, by a group which is positive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not saying all groups are bad, is it? Yeah, it's just so something about taking the time to notice what your conditions have been and what different groups, what influence they have on you, and then you can decide sort of whether that's something you want to carry on being influenced by or not, weighing things up. Yeah, good. What about your group? What did you come up with over there?
I think we started with what does it mean to be conditioned by a group? And I think where we got to is it's to do with either you're trying to fit in with a group, you crave like sort of fitting in and then getting along with everyone, or you're trying to push things away, their values, their ideas, their views. And it's to do with, I think, your identity. If you identify with being a member of a group, you have you go along with what they want, or you push them away. But if you let go of the identity, you can still sort of freely choose to subscribe to certain views, to subscribe to certain ideas, but there's a slight distinction. You can choose to agree with every single thing, every single value from a group, without identifying with it, and you still have a level of freedom.
Yeah.
For example, if that group changes in dynamics, you could take a step back and decide whether you want to go with it or not.
Yeah.
As opposed to when you're just a part of it, you don't even see really what's going on, and you basically just think that it's you actually when it's conditioning from outside.
That's really helpful. Thank you. And I like this thing of like being free to have the same ideas as other people, or free not to. And I think that what I would say about this is it sounds like quite, I'm going to be a bit of a free thinker. It's deeply demanding because our psychology is very, very much rooted in these societal kind of formations. So this stuff is much, much more challenging than it first appears. So to speak up, for example, when you don't feel like speaking up, but you feel like your values demand that you do, and say something different from the group zeitgeist or whatever, that requires quite a lot of courage, in fact, and it can, ostracization from our family or friendship groups, it's a very, very painful thing. So there's this kind of deep psychological risk that sometimes needs to be taken, or that we don't want to take. But what I like about what you're saying about being free to sort of be part of a set of ideas or groups, that one of the things about the true individual is it doesn't even see the group. It might see a group of people, but it doesn't have that, am I going to try and fit in, or am I going to define? It just sees other people as individuals as well. So that allows that freedom to interact, actually, and try things out. Yeah. Anything else finally from this question? No? Okay. So who spoke about developed self-awareness? This group? Yeah? Any other groups? Right at the back, yeah. Okay, great. So what came with this question? So the true individual has developed self-awareness. Why do you think that is?
I think we mainly spoke about like 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first was that we need to be quite self-aware to understand if we are conforming or rebelling, because it's probably we just do it anyways.
Yeah.
So we need to kind of have an understanding what are we more prone to, and what are we doing. And then the second one is just to kind of be receptive of our truth, as in like what actually feels good to us, or what's not very helpful. Whereas if we're not really aware, we might be pulled to different directions, and we're not really doing what we are meant to be doing. And then the third one was, can you guys remember?
Well, we talked a lot about rebellion, and whether I think we might have gone off message a bit here, but whether you rebel against a norm, and I think we thought that you needed to have quite a lot of self-awareness to be able to do that if you were doing it on principle, but equally you could rebel just to be awkward.
Exactly, as a way of creating.
Yeah, so there's a sort of a bit of an interesting duality there. Exactly, and I think there's some good points there. So just starting with the last one, I think what's so interesting about this is you can't look around and say, okay, what does a true individual look like? I'm going to do that. I'm going to copy them. because it might look like someone who doesn't ever kind of stick their head above the parapet. That there's no sort of map. It's not like a rebellious person or a conformist person. It's someone who, like, inwardly is able to make their own decisions for reasons of value, and not for reasons of like all sorts of things, unconscious urges, habit, etc. And then what did you talked about for self-awareness to know whether you're conforming or rebelling? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I invite you all, just like over the next few days, just to notice that tendency, like when you're around people, like are you the one who sort of always says, oh, I don't know, like sort of tries to be awkward in a discussion or be a devil's advocate or something? Or are you the one who only afterwards, after you've been with people, think, hang on a minute, that's not what I think. Like, it doesn't even, sometimes you don't even know what you think, because the currents of discussion are so strong that you sort of don't allow yourself your own thoughts, whereas other people sort of go in with their own thoughts and don't pay attention to anyone else. So just noticing that, and are you too easily agreeable, or are you too easily kind of, I don't know, up yours-ish or something? Yeah. Okay. So at the back, what did you come to with that discussion? Do you have any more reflections?
Yeah, I think one thing we spoke a bit about was how maybe developing self-awareness can help you become more empathetic.
Ah.
I guess generally we're pretty similar human beings, and learning more about how your mind works can help you know about how other people's minds work.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, so there's something a bit more connected in that way, isn't there? Like we're talking about individuality, but actually that's not unrelated to people around us. Yeah, nice. Thank you. Any other final? Anything else? Is that you?
No, I think it helps you to. Probably it's not in the right context, but it helps you to pick and choose what you agree or not agree with others, and as Luke was saying, be more empathetic to them.
Yeah, yeah, great. And I think all of this requires like self-reflection. What's my life been like? What have my influences been like? How and why do I show up in the world? Your early experiences. You get a sense of yourself and being able to be objective about what's helpful and what's not helpful. And it's not always that easy to get rid of the unhelpful things, but you can work towards it. You can see how it isn't serving you and develop more of the helpful things. Another thing about self-awareness is that you begin to see the consequences of your actions and take responsibility for them. And that's amazing. that's like how to live your life, is to see more and more, to take more and more responsibility for your actions and see what the consequences are, and then you can act accordingly, sort of free from habit, and sort of spontaneously moving towards something more I don't know quite what word is actually. I'll find the word later. Yeah. Okay. So the next definition was not psychologically dependent on others. Who talked about that? Groups there. Yeah. Okay. What did you get to? Why is that a mark of an individual? Or what's it like to be psychologically dependent on others?
So we talked quite a lot about the fact that we actually talked a little bit. I mean, we were a bit confused about what being psychologically dependent on someone kind of looks like. We discussed that quite a lot.
Yeah. Did you get anywhere?
We were kind of like saying that there's quite a deep part of being a human that means that you are psychologically dependent on other people, and it's kind of like an inescapable part of the human psyche, that you're like part of who you are is who you are when you're observed by other people. And so it's pretty difficult to like chop that part of yourself out. So it's like because you can't escape being psychologically dependent on other people to some extent. It's more about being aware of the extent to which you are psychologically dependent on other people and finding a healthy middle ground.
Yeah, I think that's really good that you've noticed how sort of enmeshed we are psychologically with one another. Yeah. Any more from the nearer? What did you talk about?
I think we came to a similar conclusion through a slightly different lens. In that we were talking a lot about actually what does dependency mean, because that implies a great deal of need, and actually psychologically one can be reactive or influenced by others. But that's not necessarily the same as being dependent.
Yeah.
And so we got quite drawn in on actually dependent is quite a strong association.
Yeah.
So if you're not dependent, then actually you have that degree of individuality.
Yeah. Yeah, well done. Yeah, so something like, I'm thinking about the word connected. Like we can never not be connected, but dependence is, like you said, a strong word, and it implies need. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of that need is approval from other people. So can we speak our own mind without the need for approval? Test. That psychological independence means that you don't mind differing from other people. You don't mind entertaining different ideas from the group of people that you're used to hanging around with. And you don't feel that pressure of conformity. You don't succumb to that pressure. There's this emotional, psychological freedom, which is not the same as not being connected. So we're not talking about moving into sort of a contracted, closed down kind of thing. It's almost like the more independent we are, the freer we are able to, more freely we can interact with anybody, because we're not sort of frightened of what their influence might be, or what their thoughts about us might be. Yeah, great. Okay, creative. Who spoke about being creative? Yeah, just this group or another group? Yeah. Okay. Let's start over here. Where did you get to with that? Anywhere?
That it's a very true form of the individual. So when we're being creative, if it's not informed by what other people are wanting or expecting, then it's a true form of how you're feeling, or what your nature might be, and it's very unique to you. So it's not something that can be replicated by other people if it's coming from the right place, from within. And they can take different forms, and artistic, or just in your daily routine, or how you might make your food, or something like that. It can have lots of subtleties about how you can be creative, even if you have a very regimented lifestyle. You can still bring these things to the fore.
It sounds really appealing, doesn't it? Just being more creative. So like something authentic to you. That's really good. And what else did you say? Something? There was another thing. Well, it can't be replicated by other people. There's a quality of uniqueness. Yeah, sounds really appealing. Yeah. Okay.
One thing in our group is we talked about both that kind of authenticity and it coming from within.
Yeah.
But we also talked about that kind of tension with often creativity is taking other ideas and kind of modifying them or replicating them, but changing them in a way. There's a kind of feels like there's a tension there.
Yeah, I wonder if there is a tension, or whether it's oh gosh, it's a whole area, isn't it? But I think that's right. It's well, again, it's in this conformity, individualistic that to be really creative, you don't need to be original. You're not trying to be original. You're actually just moving. You're influenced by things, and then expressing your response. And if you do that naturally and freely, and without clearing away the cliches of your own thought, then that will come. Originality is kind of like a byproduct of that quality of authentic response to tradition. Even I think that's what real creativity is. It's not pitting itself against something. Yeah. Whether any other thoughts around creativity? And then we've just got one more.
I think we were talking about love and generosity being quite similar. That's an expression of love, and also how it's a very generous thing. It's something that you put a lot of energy into, and it's like a transfer of kind of a bit of you, I suppose, that's out. I can't remember what else.
And we talked about there being boundaries or limits, and that can sometimes seem like, well, maybe that cuts across creativity, but actually they're often helpful in finding the new way forward. So it's not that you have to have a sort of completely free field in order to be creative, but you have some kind of guide or boundary.
limitation to creativity.
Yes, I see what you mean.
A lot of artists would say that it makes it more spicy in a way.
Yeah, If you're under certain kinds of pressure,
exactly.
you discover new ways of doing things. Yeah, so like even discipline can help with creativity, for example. Yeah, yeah, great. Okay, so the final one is, can you accept unpopularity? Who talked about that one? Over there. Yeah, so that this group, what did you come up with? Why is that a mark of an individual?
Well, one of the things we talked about was that if you really believed in something that was going to be for the greater good, you could accept unpopularity. So we even talked about the Buddha was probably not that popular with his father, with his wife, he left, but his belief was that he was searching for something that was going to serve the greater good, and there are other people in history that have maybe gone against the grain, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Malcolm X, etc. So we were talking about that these people had a vision, saw the greater good that they could bring, and were, had the courage to kind of fulfil that and see that. So that was one area we talked about.
That's great, yeah, and I think it's going against the grain because you have a vision of something better, and the grain is really not always very good, is it? Like, it's definitely worth going against when you look around in the world. We could do with more people who have more vision and that creative response actually to enact that vision despite what people around them might say. Yeah, and over here, what did you come up with?
In our case, we spoke a bit, not expanded beyond unpopularity. We have so many tags: progressive, fun. There are so many ways of describing, and that they are so conscripted, so limited in terms of time, culture, geolocation. So it's not really a good way to tap into our humanity and kindness.
What, being unpopular?
Thinking on those through those tags. So abstracting from those conceptions is a better way of thinking of our humanity and kindness. And another aspect was tapping in that sensation of accepting unpopularity, accepting death, accepting such feelings that are uncomfortable to us. It's also very liberating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's really good. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of I think a lot of this can just mean that if we attempt this project of becoming more individual, we're definitely going to just feel less comfortable, whatever our tendency is. And can we bear that discomfort of, actually, I've got to say something that no one's going to like, but I somehow I can't not say it now. It's become too much. That my values are sort of, despite my best efforts to squash them down, sometimes it becomes like that. So ways. So that's really good. I know I've asked quite a lot of you to think all this through, but what was I going to say? Yeah, and there are ways that we can practice this, so we can start to put it into practice now. So one of the things that we can start to do is just like really tell the truth a lot more than we're in the habit of doing. And so that might mean, first of all, it's not sort of saying easy like yes I agree, but it's also noticing like that thing that you don't say that actually you need to say. Can you just start to say that a bit more? And stay with this discomfort of someone might not like it. Maybe we need to do that. And then another way of practicing individuality is to not blame other people for our own difficulties. So the more we blame other people, the less we are an individual. We're just we're taking away our own agency, our own responsibility. So even if things happen to you because of something that someone else has done, like the Buddha said, he really discouraged blame. He said, if you're blaming others, then you're not a disciple of mine, which is a very, very intensely strong thing to say. So we can just practice that, noticing when we're dispersing the intensity of our experience by sort of flicking it out on other people. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, if only that. I don't know. And then they did that, and it's like, okay, what happens if you just drop that and just drop it in your head, stop moaning about what other people have done to you, and just see what happens from there. So those are two ideas about how to practice more individuality, and well, what we're trying to do as a Buddhist. So imagine we start cultivating all of these things, like all of this enormous self-awareness. We're free from group conditioning. We're not psychologically dependent on others. What else? We're creative. We're spontaneous. We don't mind. We're friendly, but we don't mind being unpopular. Well, what then? Because in some ways we could just say, well, that's quite a great way to live through life. But actually, what's even better is when individuals start coming together and create a community of individuals. And what that community looks like is people who want to see other people's individuality thrive. So want to see uniqueness, want to see all of the unhelpful conditioning being sloughed off, want to see kind of, it's sort of like, well, the image from the Buddha was that lotus is blooming up from the mud, so want to see the flower and not the mud. All of the views that bog us down from society, all of the cliches that we get kind of, mushed into us, all of that's gone, and we see clearly and brightly we're self-contained, we're free to interact with other people, we're friendly, and that is what the Sangha is, the Buddhist community is aspiring to do. People who want to grow and want to help, wanting to help others to grow, it's exactly the same thing. And when the Buddha saw people, he saw them. It's more like he saw what they could be. He might see someone sort of, I don't know, from the most miserable background, sort of completely cramped by the life that they'd lived or something, and he'd see their potential as not as a better person, or like he wouldn't think, haha, another disciple. What he'd see is like the potential for that person just to keep on growing and to become as magnificent as he was, really. That he could see their magnificence in potential, and he would engage with them in that way. So imagine someone like looking at you and seeing your magnificence in potential. Like you could barely look them in the eye. It would be so intense. It would be very demanding, but like liberating. So that's what the Buddha would have done. That's the effect that the Buddha would have had if you're receptive enough to receive it. So that's what the spiritual community is trying to do. Bhante, our teacher, says to start a spiritual community, a Buddhist community, a group of people, you don't need very much, actually. You don't need like a place to go, you don't need an outfit, you don't need special words to chant or anything. They may come later or they may not, but what you need is people who are free enough, just free enough, a number of individuals who are relatively emancipated, he says, and they should all be trying to evolve and helping one another to evolve. So that's the vision of the spiritual community, and that comes through all sorts of things, of commitment to values, an ethical life, and of course the practice of friendship, of engaging, of like honest and creative communication with other people, letting oneself be seen. Okay, so thanks very much. That's for your hard work on that discussion. I think we'll finish there with the vision of the spiritual community, and I hope to see you next week. I missed out the best bit at the end.